Hey guys, this is Simon Lovell here, and welcome to this very special interview. A good friend of mine, Todd Gaster, who's actually a wealth expert, but also covers a lot with the topic that I'm really want to talk to you about today, and is close to my heart, which is bullying. You know, before I started my personal training career, I had a lot of bullying at school. It was a very negative time for me, and I really wanted to talk to Todd because he's really experienced in this area. Because I know that many trainers who go into the industry, oftentimes, you know, for me in particular, I started in that industry because I wanted to gain more confidence. You know, I wanted to fight back the bullies by starting a kung fu class, and then when I went to the kung fu class, the teacher took me under his wing, took me into the gym. I started to love exercise, and then I ended up in a personal training career. However, of course, things can still linger despite having a new frame and muscles and level of fitness. And really, I wanted to talk to Todd about this, about the psychology around it, how we can deal with even now. You know, maybe if you started your career and you started to go into the social media side of things, there's still a lot of bullying going on. And so I really want people to understand the psychology of it. I want to talk a bit about my story, and maybe it will help you, not just help maybe your kids if you've got them, but also to help some of the situations that may arise in the future, and also how to handle maybe some stuff that's happened in the past. So Todd, I really want to thank you for coming on board. This is going to be a really powerful interview for everyone.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure. I certainly am honored to be on this with you, and going to enjoy the journey as we go here. So fantastic. Thank you for having me.
No worries. So I don't know whether you want to start by giving us a bit of a background on you and your experience in this area, and then we can talk about a little bit about my journey and what happened to me, and you can ask some questions and stuff. I said to you before we started this, I'm really happy to be really open about my past, and if it's going to share, if it's going to motivate anyone, then that's awesome. But yeah, how did you get started in this area? Was it from personal experience or those that you love?
Well, the bullying actually. When I look back in myself growing up, I was bullied as a child, but I didn't know it. I didn't know it was bullying. I didn't, to me, it was a rite of passage. It was what everyone dealt with, and I think a lot of people that maybe in my generation, we feel that it's just what happens, and so we may look on kids today and say that they're a little soft, or they just need to suck it up, or all these other things, cliches that you hear, and you need to stand up to the bully, and all these different things. But when I look back in my own life, that I was bullied, and of course now I've got 3 kids, and so that was a concern, that my kids could possibly be bullied. And as you mentioned, I specialize in wealth and wealth creation and wealth abundance and prosperity mindset, and that's really where I made my name. But I have this calling on bullying, and the reason the same things that prevent people from creating all the wealth and desire they want are the same things that allow them to be bullied. And notice I said allow them to be bullied, because one of the big misconceptions that comes around with bullying is they say, a bully is just a bully. Well, not really. Have you ever noticed that a bully doesn't bully every single person that they come in contact with? They bully this person and they don't bully that person. So what is the difference between the 2 people? And so I started asking myself, okay, there's a difference here. There's something that this person is in control of over here that this person doesn't have on this side. And what is the difference? And I started looking at and investigating and finding out, and I discovered quite a few things. And when I talk about this, sometimes people get upset and say, well, I'm blaming the victim. I'm like, no, I'm not blaming the victim. I'm trying to empower the victim. And one of the things that you will never hear me say is I will never refer to someone as a victim. Because I want you to think about that. When you think of a victim, or you think of being victimized, are you in an empowering state at that moment?
No.
I've never met an empowered victim. And so what I do, one of the very first things that we do when I'm working with somebody, is we change that terminology from victim to target. They are now a target of bullying. And that is the very first step. It's talking about changing the beliefs and understanding the beliefs. And the other thing we've got to understand, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, and you can see this is something that means a lot to me, is parents, and I alluded to this when I first started talking, is parents have our own beliefs about bullying. And our beliefs about bullying very rarely mimic or are in line with our children's beliefs about bullying. And so we've got to make sure that we understand how our child views bullying. And to go back to kind of, you know, my own time, I remember again when I was being bullied and I had this one individual, and my parents noticed that there was something wrong, that I was acting differently, that just something wasn't adding up. And yeah, I happened to mention that, you know, I got in a fight and something, and so my dad decided to go to school and talk to the principal behind my back. And the next day I got called into the principal's office, and the principal wanted me to tell him who I was having troubles with, and I wouldn't do it because, you know, in my mind, that would teach, you know, I'd be a tattletale, I'd be a rat, I'd be whatever other word you want to come up in contact with, and that would just make the whole situation worse. But that was my parents' attitude, which was completely different than my own.
Totally relate to that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I just want to share my story so I can, with you, you know, I don't know if I've told it fully, but also for the viewers, you know, so where do I start? I mean, you know, I can remember a time when I was really happy at school, you know, playing around, you know, I always got picked last for sports, always had to wear those annoying plimsolls, but I was very much the one who didn't really like to go to academic classes and liked to spend time writing my fanzine and photocopying things and giving stuff to, you know, to sell and that type of thing. I wasn't really kind of a sporty person. And what happened was, which really started the bullying really hard, when I was around 12, 13 years old in kind of big school, as it were, was I went into the showers and I was just having a shower after a PE game or the sports, you know, football, whatever. And I was in the showers, and then one of the bigger kids in school who was kind of more respected, did more of the other sports, kind of brushed past me, and then we started to walk off, and he basically claimed that I touched him, and then basically for the following few years I had gay, all of this stuff hit me, you know, for many years, and it, you know, I just didn't want to go into school. I just hated, you know, the things that I would be pushed, shoved, kicked, punched, people call me names, and it, you know, pushed me into this, you know, I used to go and spend a lot of time on the computer and kind of seclude myself because I didn't even want to see these people, yet I knew that I had a calling and I wanted to grow myself and start to develop myself as a person. But, you know, looking back to, you know, you always ask these questions, you know, now is, you know, am I a certain way now because of that? Has it given me power? Has it given me strength in certain areas? And so really not having any counseling around that, I use that term, but coaching to really deal with that. I really still wonder now, and I'm sure you can shed some light on this, into why certain people then in the future do certain things and have certain conditions around different parts of their lives. What are your thoughts on that based on that brief story? I mean, I didn't want to go into it in kind of, you know, complete full detail, but that was pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah. Well, there are several thoughts that come to mind. One of the things, you know, because a lot of times I'm asked, you know, what are the symptoms of my child being bullied? And you expressed one of them right there. You withdrew. You stopped doing things that you enjoyed doing. You said you loved going to school. You loved that. You were the happy-go-lucky kid. You enjoyed it. Now all of a sudden you didn't want to do it. You started withdrawing. You started coming back. And that's one of the symptoms. Another symptom, and you didn't mention this in your story, but it comes out and may ring something to you. You know, is a lot of times children who are bullied will all of a sudden at home completely explode. They'll act out. They'll yell. They'll, you know, the littlest thing will set them off. You'll tell them, hey, you need to clean the room, and they will explode. You know, completely out of proportion of anything that you could even imagine. And the reason for that is when they're at school and they're being bullied, they're trying to keep everything inside. They're trying to keep all their emotions inside, because if they show anything, then that tells the bully that, hey, they're getting through to you, that they're having an effect on you. And so we're taught to shield it and to keep it inside. And so we hold all that emotion all inside, and then you get home and said, hey, you need to pick up your shoes and put them away, and kaboom, they explode, because they can finally let go of all that emotion that's been there, and their family starts taking part of it.
And And using that as a way to get their emotion out, but not telling the parent what the real thing is. Because I never wanted to tell my parents what the truth was.
Oh, exactly. Because I know when I was being bullied, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I couldn't stand up for myself. I was embarrassed that, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't, smart enough. I wasn't whatever it was. But I was embarrassed, and I didn't want to tell my parents. I didn't want them to know anything about it. And because I also had the fear that if I told my parents, my dad would go to the school, which is what he did behind my back anyway, and actually made it worse. And I never told what was going on. So that's one of the other biggest challenges is kids don't want to talk to their parents about it. That's why they like to talk to their peers. They like to talk to somebody else. They'll talk to me because they don't want their parents to know.
Yeah.
It's a struggle for them. But to answer your other question, what does this have an effect on their life later in life? And absolutely it does. Absolutely it does, and it creates things that one of the exercises I go through is what I call inner esteem. And you had mentioned something about taking kung fu and so forth. And one of the things that we hear is that we're supposed to raise kids with high level of self-esteem. Well, I don't believe that there is such a thing as a high self-esteem or a low self-esteem. You either esteem yourself or you don't. You either find value in yourself or you don't. You either feel that you are worthy or you don't. You either love yourself or you don't. There's no middle ground there. But one of the things when you ask parents is, okay, you're supposed to raise your kid with high self-esteem, what do? They say, well, let me put them in a kung fu class. Let me put them in a martial arts class. Let me put them in something where they can get good and they can feel good about themselves. Well, that's confidence. That's not esteem. We all know people who are very gifted, that are very talented, who seem to have everything in life going for them, but suffer from depression or feel that they're not worthy. One of the big cases that happened recently was a suicide with Robin Williams. Robin Williams, one of the most talented comedians and actors ever, and he commits suicide. It's because of the value and the worthiness of themselves. And so what ends up happening is when we don't value ourselves, when we don't find ourselves worthy, when we don't love ourselves, then we start looking for escapism. Then we start turning to drugs. We start turning to alcohol. We start turning to destructive behaviors. We start turning to all these other things. Number one, to make ourselves feel better, but also to escape the feeling of inadequacy, the feeling that we're not worthy, the feeling that we're not loved. And so we try to mask all that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about the evolution of me and how I've progressed to where I am now, so people can really understand. So for me, then, I mean, I went from school. I then decided to become a personal trainer, qualified. But it was during the personal training, and I'd got more confidence in my body. But I was doing gambling, and I was doing drugs at the same time. Right. So what's your thoughts? Are you in agreement with me that many people there's going to be a huge majority of trainers that go into that industry specifically for the thought that it's going to get me more confident body-wise? I've been bullied, so I'm going to start hitting the gym hard, and then, well, I love the gym, so I'm going to become a trainer and do that. What's the impact still underlying that hasn't been dealt with and that can be still attached?
Well, a great example, especially if we're talking health and fitness, is people who smoke, and then they quit smoking, and then they start eating. They gain a whole bunch of weight from eating. We hear about that all the time. They never dealt with the cause. They never dealt with what created because I don't care who it is. Nobody in today's day and age can start smoking without knowing that it is bad for you, that it's destructive, and it's going to harm you and your health. You just can't do that. So there was something that led them to go ahead and start the smoking in the first place. They stop smoking, and whatever caused them to decide to start smoking, they replace it with something else. So the example that you're using here is that people, they go out, they start working out, they start exercising, they start, hey, I'm getting this, look at my body, I'm so confident, and yet in the inside they're going, I'm not worth anything. I can only be, and this is where people put a condition on their esteem, a condition on their inner esteem, is I can love myself when I weigh 175 pounds and have I don't know what stones are for you, and 9% body fat. Then I can be worthy. And so imagine someone that has this condition set up, and it's usually set up unconsciously, but they have this belief, they have this system set up in their mind, and every morning they wake up and they're like, man, I think I feel pretty good today, but you know what? I need to go jump on the scale and make sure that I can feel good today.
Mm.
And yes, I'm being a little bit facetious and exaggerating, but that's really what happens. Okay, well, I don't weigh that 175 pounds. I'm not at 9% body fat. So I'm just going to feel bad all day long today.
And especially for the, we're talking about trainers here who get fit to, become a trainer, and they've got confidence issues. This also is highly relevant for the clients that they see that they don't know really what's going on.
Exactly. Well, it all and see, and that's where I mentioned earlier that wealth and this bullying, they're so close together in what it is that we're doing, and the same symptoms come up, and that's why I've kind of blended the two, and then they started tracking that same client, and they could even get better results for their client if they understood about the inner esteem, the self-appreciation, the self-acceptance, the self-awe, and these things that create our experience. They could get even better results. The other side of it is that when I'll use my company as an example, and I think in the past I've talked to you about this, is the name of my company is Seventh Summit International. And where that comes from is we all have summits in our life. Health, fitness, which I believe are two separate things, by the way. I don't know how your belief comes, but health, fitness, career, finances, relationships, spirituality. We all have all these areas in our life that we met someone that has exceeded or has really reached the summit in one of those areas, maybe two of them. But it's that rare person that is able to reach the summit in all areas of life. And that's what I call the seventh summit, or total wealth, or true wealth. And when you look at that, that's what we're talking about here, is when you value yourself, when you are your inner esteem, and you bring value to yourself, you bring value to your health, you bring value to the marketplace, you bring value to your clientele, and you do all of this, and you understand how all that goes, then your inner esteem affects every area of your life. You don't just succeed in the health and fitness or in the body category. You succeed in all areas because you are now worthy, you are now abundant on the inside. And that's one of the things that you had just mentioned, is when you started working out and you started getting the body that you wanted, you still gambled.
Got it.
You still had other behaviors that you got into. And so what this level of esteem and the worthiness and so forth, it takes care of all that and allows you then to succeed in all areas.
Got it. So we've talked about the journey and me and how people can often go on this cycle. And of course, it's not true for every trainer that enters the industry that's had this experience, but I think at some level everyone's been picked on, or even sometimes I picked on other people. It's just part of school, and there was a reasoning for that. And so with that being said, where do you start to repair the pain, repair the potential future, prepare and change the outcome for you moving forward, so that life can be better, and so that, most importantly, once we change ourselves, we can influence other people. Because just like you and you, Todd, and myself, this is all about, if I create a change in myself, I can share that with other people to help their lives be better.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a couple things that start. First off, we got to look at present. Where are we now? Okay, and there's a couple different ways that I go about it and that I recommend. Number one is something that I call the power zone, and taking ownership of your 4 core powers. And this is thinking, feeling, saying, and doing, are the 4 core powers. And when I say take ownership, it's that no one can make me think anything. No one can make me feel anything. No one can make me say anything, and no one can make me do anything. Okay, and taking ownership, knowing that it is my choice. And when we talk about that, and we're able to do that. Now, some people say, yeah, logically I understand that. But I'm talking about getting it into the body, into the neurology, that no one can make you do that, and that's the 4 core powers. What that does is that allows you to be responsible or able to respond to an outside stimulus. So a bully comes up to you and starts trying to bully this person. Now here's something else that's very important, is bullying doesn't happen just to kids. Adults are bullied every day. Adults are bullied every day in the workplace. They're bullied in a gym. That's why a lot of times people don't want to go to a gym who are really overweight and obese, because they feel like they're going to get bullied when they're in the gym. And there's so many things that happen, and so understanding that mindset of how to deal with it. I remember, in fact, talking about obese, and you know this about me, is I used to be 320 pounds, which is 175 kilos. I have no idea how many stones that is. But you know, I was a really big boy, and I remember I went to a gym, and we were the trainer that I was going to work with and the nutritionist. You know, we wanted to take all the measurements. You know, get a baseline, get started from where I was going to be. And I remember him asking me. He says, you know, are you okay getting measured out here with everyone, or do you want to go in the other room? I was like, yeah, because I understood who I was. I was like, no, I'm good here, whatever. And he mentioned that most people my size, because again I was huge, wouldn't want to be seen struggling, wouldn't want to be seen trying to do it, wouldn't want to be seen because again they may get picked on, they may get bullied, they may get laughed at, they may get pointed at, they may all these other things that may come up. And if I wasn't in control of my thinking, feeling, saying, and doing, I would have had an issue. I wouldn't have been able to respond or remember what I said a minute ago was responsible. Or I didn't have a responsibility, an ability to respond to that outside stimulus. And so that's the first thing, is taking ownership of those 4 core powers. Then the next big thing is self-acceptance. Self-acceptance, accepting the fact of who you are and everything that you've gone through and everything that you've had to deal with, and the fact that you are still here and you can accept that you've gone through. And that's one of the biggest issues that people have, is they don't accept. They don't accept what happened. They want to blame. They want to blame themselves, and they don't even forgive themselves. And they blame themselves. The reason I got bullied was because I must have done something. And you may have gone through this in yourself. Maybe you did something to make this guy that, you know, you brushed up against him, and you may have beat yourself up over it over and over and over. Did I do something? Did I, you know, and on and on. And the more you do that, the circle down farther and farther and farther down. So accepting who you are, appreciating who you are, and being in awe of who you are, which are the 3 pillars of the inner esteem that I talk about. You take that and you add in the power zone with the thinking, feeling, saying, and doing. And that is the beginning of that process of what you said of, you know, repairing the psyche, repairing the things that have happened in the past.
Got it. And, you know, something which I noticed with a lot of people also is now, you know, started a personal training career, gotten into the groove. They suddenly want to start marketing their business and putting themselves out there, you know, particularly on social media. Yet there's so much fear associated with trolls and negative comments. And, you know, I have something which I call the video surge, which is a process, but a lot of people have so much fear around it because of potentially what people are going to think. It all stems back to that, doesn't it? It's all linked. It's all linked to that self-esteem.
Absolutely. It's a huge part of it. And I'm glad you mentioned the social media, because one of the big things that parents want to tell their kids, or, you know, everyone else, is you stand up to the bully, or you punch a bully in the mouth and then they'll leave you alone. All these stuff that doesn't work. But anyway, how do you do that on the internet? How do you do that on social media? How do you, you know, punch the bully in the mouth when they're anonymous? How do you deal with those trolls? And so, if your boundaries aren't set, if you don't have that power zone and realize who you are, the worth that you have, the value that you have, the inner esteem, the self-appreciation, acceptance, and awe that I talk about, the thinking, feeling, saying, and doing, if you are not in complete ownership of those feelings, when you put yourself out there, that fear is going to take over.
Yeah, and that's why people get so. Part of the reason, I mean, you need marketing systems and sales processes and all this stuff. It's why people get locked in this same place, and there's no growth there, because they're so locked in this in this mindset.
Well, and here's something else. It can happen at any income level. You know, I don't care how much someone is earning. They may be at 5,000 pounds or 10,000 pounds or 100,000 pounds a month or whatever it is. you can still have these same fears. You can still have these same things guiding yourself and holding you back based on the value that you feel for yourself. The value that you feel for yourself, the level of deservedness that you feel that you deserve. So whatever level you are at right now is 100% based on your level of acceptance of yourself, your appreciation of yourself, the awe of yourself.
Yeah. Something I want to talk about now. Something which I want to talk about now is flipping it on its head, which is why are the bullies doing it themselves? Because this is about their own crap going on, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely about the bully and themselves and their own stuff that they've got going on. And that's also one of the reasons why I focus on the target and not the victim. And I'll come back to the bully in just a moment, is because we all know you can't control somebody else. I can't control what you are going to do. So yet, if you look at all of the anti-bullying programs, it's all about stopping the bully. Well, we've already decided you can't control a bully. You can't stop them, but I can control myself. I can control my feeling. I can control what it means to me to be bullied or to have someone try to bully me. So that's why I focus on the target and not the bully. But as far as the bully, it absolutely there could be all kinds of things. It could be they could have been bullied themselves, and so they stuff rolls downhill is the old thing. So they've been bullied, so now they're going to bully someone else. It could be that the only way they feel that they can get connection with someone is to bully them. It might be a way that they feel that their parents to connect with their parents and get love. I mean, there's what they may not have anything else going on in their life, and if we go with the Tony Robbins and the 6 human needs, might be a way that they feel that they can be significant because they can be significant in this person's life by bullying them. There's all kinds of things out of it, and they're getting something. They're getting some meaning. They're getting some importance out of it.
Everything we do is for a feeling. Even with the bullies, it's to give themselves a feeling of I'm in control. I'm, having you feel a certain way when I want to feel a certain way. That's all it's about, right? If I say this, you're going to feel a certain way. I'm going to feel better, and they're not dealing with their own demons.
Yeah, it all comes down to the meaning that they associate. The meaning that people associate. So if I switch to wealth for a moment, I ask someone, what does money mean? They're going to give me a meaning. If I ask someone else, what does money mean? They're going to give me a completely different meaning. So it has to do with the meanings that this person associates to their behavior. Some of them might not think it's a bad thing at all. Some of them might actually think that they are helping you by bullying you, that they're toughening you up so that you can go out and face the real world. It all comes down to what is the meaning, how they create their experience. What is what I call a matrix of frames? They're frames of meaning around themselves, around you, around others, around power, around the world, around the time, around all these. There's 7 different matrices that we work with when we're talking about this. And what is that frame of meaning? And what is the strategies that they use? And so, go back to Tony Robbins real quick. He will say. He uses the example of your Mother Teresa. Why does Mother Teresa does what she does out of contribution? And he'll say, well, I don't know that. You'd have to ask her why she does what, or why she did what she did, to find out if it was certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and contribution, growth, whatever it was, and then you could determine why she does what she does. But yes, to your point, everyone is looking for a certain feeling. And so what is that feeling? And based on the meanings that they associate to it is what they're going to get.
What would your advice be to anyone that's, how would I phrase this, worried about putting themselves out there? Because I think there's a lot of that, comparison to others, right? Mm-hmm. What if this other person thinks this? And it could stem back to the bullying, but as a general scope, your advice to someone that's worried about, putting themselves out there and really maximizing their potential. They've got a skill set, and even for new trainers, but even those that have been around for a couple of years, they're still not really putting themselves out there to the maximum potential because they're worried what others will think.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first question that I ask anybody when we're talking about a situation like that is, what would that mean to you? So what would it mean if you put yourself out there? And they'll say, well, people will, think bad about me. Okay, and what does that mean? And we again find out what that meaning is, because Yeah, again, I'll go back to money and stuff. I asked a guy the other day, what does money mean? And he couldn't answer it. We think intellectually we know. Well, of course I know what money is. But then until you are asked that question, you don't really have the thought. So someone says, I'm just afraid to put myself out there. Okay, well, what does that mean? See, because we have this vagueness, and we think that is okay. It's like when someone says something is terrible. Okay, well, what does that mean? See, terrible is one of those words that magnifies everything, but you can't define terrible. Right. Terrible is a word that it just we refer to it as awfulizing. That's just awful. Okay, well, what does that mean? Oh no, it's just awful. Okay, I get that. And what does that mean to you? And you can't. It's tough for them to describe it. But when they use the word awful or they use the word terrible, it magnifies that whole feeling, because it's not something that you can't pick up terrible and put it in a wheelbarrow and wheel it away. Mm. So you can't conceptualize what terrible is. But when you say that, it just becomes this huge thing. And so that's why when you ask specifically, okay, and what does that mean to you? Well, it means this person may laugh at me. Okay, and if they laugh at you, and suppose that's true and they do laugh at you, then what? Mm. And what you will find is you will get into this meaning of they don't think I'm worthy. Okay. And so, great, they don't think you're worthy. And what you will find is you will go back to themselves. What are they worthy? Are they deserving? Are they so forth? And when you can get them back to their own esteem, their own ownership again of those four core powers, it no longer matters what anybody else thinks.
You must find a lot. You must find a lot that people get locked, which is they want to be this, grow. They want to share with the world. They want to share their talents, yet they're not moving forward and they're locked and they don't know why. Right? Do you get this a lot with people? And it's frustrating, right? Because it's like they think it's a marketing thing, they think it's a sales thing, they think it's a some strategy, and of course it sometimes can be that, but oftentimes this is subconscious, right?
Yeah, it is. It's again back to the matrix and the frames of meanings that someone has. But a lot of times, one of the questions that you ask is, why do you want that? So you want to put yourself out there, you want to succeed, you want to make this 100,000 pounds a month, you want to do all this. Why? What will that give you? What will it do for you? What is the purpose of this? And what you will find is sometimes people are trying to succeed and succeed and succeed, and all these huge levels to succeed, because they feel that will then make them worthy. That they will then make them deserving this. And that is not an empowering state. That's not an empowering vision. So, sometimes people come up and they say, hey, I want to, let's go in the fitness business. I want to earn this amount of money. Great. Why do you want to earn that? Why is that important? What will it give you when you do that? What is the meaning behind that? And when you have all that exactly the way you want it, what's even more important about that? Until you can find the true driving behavior behind them doing what they're doing. And when you're able to do that, then the money doesn't matter anymore. And it's kind of funny because they achieve the money. They get it anyway.
Yeah, because they're in line with their true purpose, and the money comes because they're in alignment, for sure.
Exactly.
And that's how I see a lot of the shifts with my clients, is getting to that true driver, and then that's where all the blocks start to remove and stuff like that. So it's key. Anything else? Any thoughts or transformations that you want to share with people that are just little tips and lessons, some actionable steps that the guys watching can do to really start to relieve some themselves? I think the great thing about this interview is that it's raised awareness. Awareness to, and I think a lot of people are going to watch this and go, oh my God, I didn't even know that was me. I didn't even know that it was even linked. And I think that's key. But then there's also going to be a case of, well, what do I do now? What are some of the action steps?
Well, the first thing is, as you said, awareness. So we need to be aware of the things that are driving us. So I would ask, right? Here's an example. What is it that someone wants to achieve? If they say they want to achieve, and I keep going back to the 100,000 pounds because that seems to be a fun number that people want. 100,000 pounds. Okay, great. Why don't you have that? Whatever comes next is nothing more than a belief. So when you ask that, why don't you have that? Whatever comes next is nothing more than a belief. Now, when you get that belief, now then the question is, okay, well, what does that mean? What does that belief mean? What else could it mean? Why is that belief true for me? Or did I simply manufacture that belief to make myself feel better for not accomplishing that 100,000 pounds? Because, yeah, I could do it, but you see, this thing right here is why I can't achieve. And so what is it? And finding out those meanings and finding out the beliefs. Sometimes just simply being aware of the belief will eliminate it. Have you ever had an experience where, someone asked you a question and you said something and the answer came out and you were like, I can't even believe I just said that. That is so not true. That is the biggest thing. That's the biggest crock. Well, that happens. Well, that belief is now gone because you heard yourself say it and you laughed at it, and that no longer holds truth for you. So finding out what those beliefs are. So a question that I use in wealth. So if we translate this over to your fitpreneurs, and they want to increase their business, they want to increase their personal training business. So if we look at money and saying, all right, what is wealth? Is the first question. Have them write down and define what is wealth. The second question is, what would I have to be in order to be wealthy? Or what would I have to believe in order to be wealthy? And then the third question is, what do I believe? Now, when you look at those, now let's translate that back into bullying, translate that into the inner esteem that I talk about. There's a difference between number 2 and number 3 on those questions. There's a difference between what they would have to believe in order to be wealthy and what they do believe. There is a difference, otherwise they would already be wealthy. Okay?
Yeah.
So looking at those two and then relate them back to yourself. Do you deserve? What is your inner esteem? Because, man, you might have been picked on as a kid, and since you were picked on as a kid, maybe you don't deserve to be wealthy.
Got it.
I believe we all have unlimited wealth, abundance, and prosperity inside. We just got to get to it. And sometimes you got to clear that path of the bullying, the acceptance, the appreciation, the awe, in order to allow ourselves to be aligned with our purpose, our vision, our mission. And when that alignment of our intentions is aligned with the attentions, the things that we attend to daily, that's where the magic happens. So back to long answer to your question, step 1 is find out what they truly believe.
Got it.
What do I believe? Why is it true for me? And is it something that I manufactured to make myself feel better for not living up to my ultimate potentials? Those are 3 great questions. And then the others is, what is wealth? What would I have to believe in order to be wealthy? And what do I believe?
Awesome. Todd, this interview has been very valuable, not just for me, but I'm sure everyone watching. And I know that in your heart you're wanting to help and serve these people and get over this pain. And what you're doing is amazing. So high five you to that from the virtual side of Google Hangouts. How can people reach you?
Easiest way is find me on Facebook. Just Todd Gaster. GAS as in Sam, T as in Tom, ER. That's the quickest and easiest way. That's that and LinkedIn. Either one will find me. Just Todd Gaster is the best way to get in touch with me.
Really appreciate your time, Todd, and amazing stuff. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure, and always an honor to speak with you and your people, and you're doing amazing work with them, and it's great to watch. So thank you again for having me, and we'll talk soon.
This is going to be a big piece of the jigsaw for a lot of people, and I know that you're going to get a lot of messages. Take it easy, buddy.
All right. Have a great one.
Thank you.